And we are back. Welcome to the Rack Show, ladies and gentlemen. I am Frank Horvath. I'm one of your hosts to the Responsibly Armed Citizen Show. Joined with me in studio is Mr. Tim Kelly. Tim, how are you doing today?
Doing wonderful, man.
Fantastic. We are also joined by Zach Cox. Zach's an instructor with Apache Solutions. Hello, Zach.
How's it going, guys?
Fantastic. Good. Hey, so we have an awesome show planned out for everybody. Before we proceed anymore, I was reminded over the past week that I need to introduce what the Responsibly Armed Citizen Show is, right? So what we're all about. So the Responsibly Armed Citizen Show is designed to introduce the responsibly armed citizen, right? That is you, a listener, to the things that a responsibly armed citizen should know. Everything from the gear to training to just common pitfalls, right? The law. There's just so many things that the responsibly armed citizen should know when it revolves around self-defense and the world thereof. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about training. We're going to talk about different classes. We're going to talk about maybe some specific classes. There's quite a bit that is out there. So quality classes. What does it look like, or what does a quality training class looks like, and does it have to only deal with firearms?
No. A quality training class is just dependent on what you're looking for, right? I think one thing I need to point out with the Rack Show is this is a little bit different. Just much like our business in Apache it's much different. Our mission here is to educate the armed society.
Right.
Right now we have a really low bar in terms of education regarding firearms. The more common one is just go out and take a concealed carry class, and people consider themselves to be trained.
Right.
Like with the ED attached at the end of it, it's there. As Zach pointed out last week in the last show, there is no end to this. This is this is a lifelong journey of education and learning, and we need to hold ourselves to a higher standard, especially with what we have going on in our society right now with attacks on the Second Amendment and that type of thing. We've really got to hold ourselves to a higher standard, and so seeking out quality training and getting the proper education is very, very important. If you know what you're looking for, let's say you're looking for a concealed carry class, right?
Yep.
A concealed carry class is necessary. We talked about that in a couple of shows back to educate you on the laws that govern deadly force, essentially when to use your firearm, right? That's what it's there for, not the
how to use your firearm.
Not the how to, right?
That's not its purpose anyway.
Right. So if you're seeking out a good concealed carry class, a lot of people would say, oh, well, I got taught by this guy who is a retired law enforcement officer, and he's been deeply involved in the law enforcement community for 20 or 30 years. He was a patrol deputy. He did this, did that. Yeah, okay, that's great. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of experience there. I'm sure that he would have to offer. He or she would have to offer, but that's not the end all be all. Right. Having some type of background in the law, other than I went and took a class on this that was state mandated.
Right.
Look for above and beyond.
Right.
Look for the person who is studied under Masad Ayub,
yep,
or the person that studied under Andrew Branca.
Yep.
Look for people who know those names, instructors who know those names. If you don't know those names, you should take a look at those too.
Yeah.
And there are several others to consider, but look for people who have gone above and beyond. Don't just settle for the cheap class. I mean, that seems to be a commonplace. Is I can't tell you how many phone calls we get. It's like, how much does your concealed carry class cost? Okay, thanks, bye.
Yep.
They're shopping, man. They're just shopping for the cheapest concealed carry class around. And I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Don't settle for the guy who's just selling certificates out of the trunk of his car, right? I understand that this is often viewed, concealed carry classes are often viewed as a check in the box. But don't have that mentality. Like I said before, we need to hold ourselves to a higher standard.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And like you said, there's a number of quality instructors that are out there. Concealed carry is a check in a box, but there's a lot of things that it doesn't always have to revolve around firearms. What is something that I'm deficient in, and who can I go to help resolve some of that deficiency? I really tend to gravitate around range master instructors. Like there's a lot of quality range master instructors that are out there who, in some way or fashion, have been vetted in the knowledge that they possess. Look at the ones who are invited to TACON, invited to teach at TACON. Every single one of those instructors has some sort of background somewhere that has, or they have been vetted personally by Tom Givens that says, hey, these people know what they're talking about. They're teaching right. Go seek classes from these people.
Right. So the range master community, what makes it so special is they're a community of people who are in the know.
Right.
Right. They may not have the skill set down 100%, and they're all a bunch of USPSA grandmasters and IDPA grandmasters or world champion shooters or anything like that. But they are in the know. They know the direction to point you to. They know that there is more out there than just hey, go pick up a gun, stick it in my britches, and carry it around. Right. They know there's more to it.
Yeah, something that I've really appreciated about that community in general, or just specifically, is that if they're not afraid to say that they don't know.
Right.
So I've communicated with other instructors. I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about this. This is what I'm wanting to do, or this is what I'm I have a deficiency here, and the instructor I may be talking to will be like, yeah, that's not me, but you can go talk to such and such, and they're they know of somebody, or they are the authority on this particular topic. I'm like, all right, well, awesome, thank you. You saved me some time. They didn't blow any smoke anywhere where it didn't belong. Yeah, that's just absolutely fantastic. There are other things to look at, right? So look at, like, again, we had talked last class about vetting that instructor, vetting and things that you can do as far as looking things up online. Really look at what other people's reviews on the class. Look at what other people have said about the class. If you know of somebody that has personally taken class, that will go a long way as far as the likelihood that I'm going to be going in and taking presence at the class or taking class myself. Me, like I said, even though I'm an instructor with Apache, I am a forever student. Like I am constantly going out and I'm constantly taking classes. This year may be the slowest year I've ever had, doing any kind of regular training classes, but it doesn't mean that it's zero. It just means that life. But prior to that, you're talking hours and hours and hours and hours of taking classes from various vetted instructors for various different skill sets, right? But all of them revolve around my common goal, right? What is my goal? My goal is to be able to defend my family and stop a threat. God forbid I ever had to. Not that I want to, but I want to be able to at least have my head up and identify what's happening around me, and be able to respond to that. And it's not always gunslinging. I keep bringing that back. But how important is med in your family? What's more likely to happen? Am I going to roll up on a car accident? Or, excuse me, Tim, I'm going to ask you this. What's more likely to happen? You're going to roll up on a car accident, or are you going to have to stop a threat?
You're most likely going to roll up on a car accident. I mean, think about the number of car accidents that you've driven past in the last month. Zach and I just drove past one a couple of weeks ago or a week ago of a tractor trailer that had turned over and blocked all of 77 northbound, like all of them. So shoes shut down, all of Statesville shut down. It's probably backed up all the way to Charlotte. Those are things that you should be, trying to prepare for, and be equipped to take care of certain things, like if somebody's hurt or something like that.
Something else I'm really fond of is, like I said, those other things. The communications is a big thing.
Yep.
Learning about ham radio, whatever it may be. But there's a lot. Whatever you're interested in, there's a class out there for you. And welcome back to the Rack Show. Well, we're talking about all things that the Responsibly Armed citizen should know when it comes to taking classes, right? Taking professional classes, seeking more training. So my question is this. So I've decided on taking a class, right? I've gone through, I've vetted the instructor online, I've read reviews, I've talked to somebody that may have taken a class, right? I've gone all things, I've decided that I'm going to take this class. What am I to expect? Talk about a little bit about what should I do when I go to class? What how do I act at that class? What do you think, Tim? How should you what should you expect when attending a class for the first time?
I mean, I think you should expect a professional setting of some sort, and I'm not saying it's got to be held in, this Taj Mahal style classroom or the best, range in the world, but you should see some type of professional image, like they have the instructor or the staff there has gone the extra mile to at least make it look and presentable and halfway decent. The trainer needs to have some type of curriculum and structure to what they're teaching, and less of the just the off the cuff hip pocket style.
Hey, now we're doing this.
Here's everything that I've learned for the past 38 years, and just throw it all at them. It's got to have some type of structure. It's got to have some type of purpose. So, I guess you could start with like the title of the class. Zach's got a shotgun manipulations class tomorrow, right? So if I were to take Zach's shotgun manipulations class, I would assume just from the title that I'm going to learn how to manipulate a shotgun. Right. And I'd go into the description of the class and say, okay, this is what all they've got lined out for the day. And then when I get to the class, I would expect to hear some type of brief summary of what we're about to learn, some, I guess, learning objectives and that type of thing, right? That's what I would be expecting when I get to a class.
You should also expect safety.
100%.
That's the biggest
exactly
thing.
What I was going to put on that. Yeah.
Safety is the biggest thing. And that's, you've already vetted your instructors. You know all this stuff, and you have talked to people and everything else in between. But whenever you get to the class, you should expect safety.
Yeah.
You should expect an emergency procedure in case of an incident or an accident, and also safety in, are they actually teaching us to be safe during this class, no matter what kind of firearm class it is. Some of the other ones is, depending on a lot of different instructors, it could be environment, facilities, comfort items. If it's classroom, it might be better that you're doing it inside with AC, but sometimes it's outside and it's hot. And so there's a lot to expect in different classes, but you can always communicate with the instructor and email them and talk to them.
Yeah, and that's a big piece of it, or as the communication. If on the class list they send you all the information about, this is what to expect with the class. I need you to bring, X amount of ammo. This is how I need you to bring your firearm to class, et cetera. All right, they break everything down, your gear list. And from there, if you still have a question about something as far as what you are supposed to bring, then that's the time to speak up. Be like, okay, shoot a quick email, give them a quick call, say, hey, what about this? Or I have a problem with something that you said in your gear list. I want to know more about that. So for example, again, I'm going to open up a little can of worms here, I'm sure. But with our concealed carry classes, one of the things that we do not allow for qualification to concealed carry class is somebody bringing a rim-fired handgun.
Oh,
right?
God, you just broke the internet.
Oh, I know, right? The internet's going to break. Well, we don't, but there's reasonings for that, right? So again, go back a couple of episodes, you'll listen to our whole argument about rimfire, and we're not going to get into that here. But more often than not, that causes pause. A student will receive that, or they didn't read the course description all the way through. They missed that, or whatever it may be. So it calls to say, hey, why? I'm glad you called and you just didn't show up with your rimfire, handgun. But again, I've had other classes where that student still showed up with their, rimfire handgun, and I've had to go to them and say, hey, look, I understand this firearm that you brought today. I see that. I cannot let you, use that today. and it goes one of two ways. I'm either giving them a refund, or we're pivoting. They're allowing us to pivot, which is fine. So I want to say this: be flexible. Don't be flexible with your safety. Right? Don't be flexible with security. Be very rigid on that. If you see something, say something. But be flexible as far as, okay, well, the bottom just fell out of the sky. It is just raining hard, or it is like very hot out here. There's a lot of sun, right? There's people that we potentially need to back things off a little bit just so that we can get out, get in the shade or something like that. Don't be so rigid in saying this is my goal. This is what has to happen. We have to do that. Be flexible as far as letting the instructor be a little bit fluid with how they are deciding to run that class.
I find with a lot of new folks who are just getting into training, you see it written all over the face of the person who's just coming into class for the first time. And a lot of them seem to view the instructor as like the boss, right? Like, this is the person that's leading the class. I'm supposed to do what I'm told, and that's it, right? I prefer to use, like Phil Groff of Vigor Training. I prefer to use his style, which is more of I view my students as training partners.
Yeah.
Right. Look, it's no different than if we just went to the range together and we're training together. I'm going to listen to you, and you're going to listen to me, and we're going to have established some type of system in place to make sure that we have clear communication and we know what to expect from each other when we get out to the range. It's no different, really, and that's why I try to teach our students. Now, I bring that up to try and say that maybe it's difficult for a new person to view themselves as a training partner or view themselves as a peer to the instructor. I know that can be kind of complicated, and you're looking to them as a person that's going to be giving you guidance, and you're going to have to trust them. I'm giving you permission, for all our listeners, I am giving you permission to leave when you have that feeling of I'm unsafe.
100%.
You have permission, all right? Don't feel like you have to stay there. If, as Frank was saying, the bottom's falling out, but the instructor kept you out on the line and he's screaming at you and doing all kinds of stuff, like you have permission. Like, you don't have to. You're a paying student. You don't have to be there.
You're an adult.
Yeah, you're an adult.
Right.
Right. Absolutely. You don't need to be there. If they don't establish an emergency plan, they say, all right, all we're going to do is operate under big boy rules. No.
Leave.
No, just leave.
Yeah.
It's
$100
okay.
class or $500 class isn't worth
and don't
possibly my life because of lightning or something.
Yeah.
Or another student's negligence. Like,
exactly.
I'm just not. Yeah, it's
That's why
not going to
safety's
happen.
so important.
100%. If a class doesn't start, if it is a shooting class, right, a class where you're manipulating firearms, and there's not a very distinct safety brief, stop, speak up, say something, and if that safety brief doesn't happen, leave. I mean, just get your money back and roll on, or
It's
not,
having a plan. It's preparing for. The instructor should prepare and plan for their students. Should prepare and plan for having bathrooms available, depending on the class. Like, if I farm and have a farming company and everything like that, and have a cattle farm, if I were teaching people canning, how to can green beans, okay, I should have a plan on having the green beans, having the cans. But what if I had a bonfire next to a propane tank and
Right.
speak up or leave if you need to. It's safety is the most biggest priority.
Yeah, 100%. Something else that I have seen in classes that I've taken is there's certain amount of student professionalism and there's certain amount of student conduct, and then there should be the instructor professionalism.
Right.
As a student, you should be there willing to learn. You need to have an open attitude, or you need to come with that attitude. You need to be ready to learn. Come with those questions and ask. But at the same time, nothing is more of a turnoff than having an instructor, F-bombing this and F-bombing that, and just running their mouth like they're back in the good old days or something like that. And it's just that's not conducive to learning. There's a time and place.
I was just about to jump in on that. Let me just say that it depends on the class.
Yeah.
As adults, and especially when you're dealing in the world of violence, there's an appropriate time to learn about violent language, when to use it,
Right.
what to expect when hearing it, and to kind of prime yourself the best way possible to deal with profane language. Profanity absolutely has its place in the self-defense world, but as you said, if the instructor is using it as a verb, like
Right.
he's using it over and over and over again, yeah, I get that. That can just be quite the turnoff.
It's crass.
But yeah, it really is. But if it definitely serves a purpose in the training world,
Oh, yeah.
especially when you're learning about violence. If you can't handle somebody dropping the F-bomb in class, and that hurts your feelings, that's going to cause problems for you later on in the future.
And it adds to that stress inoculation, right? So
Sure.
especially in the South, right? We're in the Bible Belt. You have people who are, oh, nobody's going to, cuss me, or nobody's going to say foul language to me, or whatever it may be. Well, when it starts to happen, and it's happening, in a training environment where we can control this, that stress inoculation, right? That stressor, that blood pressure rising, that feeling that you get, because somebody's cussing at you. I mean, that could be beneficial, right? That potentially could save your life one day.
Well, man, I mean, a large part of dealing with violence is being able to stay in control. And one of the main things that you need to stay in control of is your emotions.
Right.
Right. And if you have some emotional breakdown because somebody's cussing you out, right, and using violent language, if you allow your emotions to get attached to that, you're going to get tunnel vision, right? And you're going to get sucked into, why is this guy cussing me? And I don't understand why. You shouldn't be concerned about that. You should be able to say, yeah, I've heard that before.
Yep.
Right. That's fine. You can call me that. Right. I'm watching your hands right now. Right. And be focused on what's really important there. Words are not important. That language is not that important. That is not what the threat is to you. Right. So sorry, I feel like I've gone off on a tangent about profanity, but I think it's absolutely imperative that folks understand that there is a time and place for it. And if you're not training yourself to understand violent language, it's a problem.
Right. Yeah, no, 100%. The biggest thing that we tend to run into is, people, they don't get what they expect, right? They don't expect they don't know what's going on, so they get hit with a bus. Let's keep talking about it. And we are back. You're listening to the Responsibly Armed Citizen Show. We are talking about classes. We're talking about going and take classes. We're talking about how we should act in classes. Something else that often goes underestimated are all of those other things that you're supposed to bring to a class that you weren't told to bring to a class that you probably should have brought to a class. I am the world's, I mean, you can ask my friends, I am the world's worst at over preparing or bringing too much stuff. I mean, heck, I went on a roof float several weeks ago, and I literally brought a kitchen stove on this thing. Like,
Yeah.
I'm bringing all kinds of extra gear, extra stuff. I'm bringing food for everybody. It's who I am. But again, taking it back to a class, what are the things that aren't on that class list that I should bring to a class? I know it depends on the where the class is going to happen at, but what are those extra things? What are some things I should be concerned about?
So I wrote a few things down, but first I want to say to all the listeners, if everybody's wondering why Frank is laughing when he's reintroducing coming back from a break, it's because I'm making him giggle over the break. And it's just funny because I'm always dancing right when the music starts. And yeah.
You can't even hear the music.
Anyways.
Because your cowboy hat interferes with your ears.
Yes. So no, some of the best things that a student can have or bring to a class, Frank kind of touched on it, but attitude. A good attitude is the most important, not for just you, but for others and for the instructor. If everybody has a good attitude, oh man, it's such a great learning environment. People are having fun, enjoying life, and they have a good attitude. Next one is an open mind. Having an open mind, whether you have learned this before or not, or whether, all right, this technique thing doesn't work that great for me. It may be working perfectly for the rest of the 20 people on the line or in the class, but give it a try. Have a good attitude, try it out, and then on a break or something, ask them. Be like, hey, that didn't really work for me. Is there another way? And they will definitely help you. Other one, quality gear, comfortable shoes. That's the kind of stuff that you should really...
That can't be underestimated, quality
Yeah.
shoes. So I pick on Tim because, we'll be, teaching class or something like that, or Tim will be teaching class, and then in the middle of the day, all of a sudden, Tim just disappears. Like, where are you going, Tim? I got to change my socks.
Change your socks, bro. If you don't change your socks on a lunch break, you're weird.
Oh, man, I started doing it. It is life-changing.
It's refreshing.
You come back with a good attitude because you're like, oh, you're just refreshed.
I'm not doing that. You
should try it,
y'all
bro.
No, as soon as I take my shoes off, y'all gonna be passing anyway, and we don't need that.
Yeah.
But so Tim changes his socks. The think of those creature comforts, right? That's something that again is vastly overlooked. I very distinctly remember early on my training journey. I would literally go by the book, okay, as far as, okay, I was told to bring this stuff. I was told to bring X amount of, rounds of ammo. I have exactly X amount of rounds of ammo. I was told to bring X amount of
But you had
magazines.
3,000 more X amount of rounds of ammo in your car.
Yeah, I have X amount of magazines, then I need to bring X amount of magazines. And then as you learn through the class, or as you learn through experience, those lists that those instructors give you, those are the minimums.
Yeah.
Those are, you minimally need to have this. You minimally need to have, we'll say, 3 magazines. Bringing 6, 20 or plus mags,
yeah,
is great. Bring it. The more that you bring, as far to a point, right? There, you can always overdo it. You can overdo anything. But to a point, the more that you have ready to go, the more they have the magazines already stuffed, loaded, whatever it may be, and the more extra ammo that you have with you, the better the potential that you're going to get more reps in, more training in. You're not going to have to go down to the line and stuff mags like everybody else. You can sit back and you can talk to an instructor. You can talk to your peers. You can you don't have to stress yourself out doing all this extra stuff. Having extra gear, especially in self-defense classes like our everyday carry or AEDC. And those type of classes will stress your gear. Mm-hmm. So if it's going to break, it's probably going to break in one of those classes. Yeah. So you need to have a backup just in case something breaks. You don't need to call it quits for the day because, well, I don't have a holster now. Well, no, you should have an idea. You have some sort of backup.
So I've got kind of like a rule of thumb, man. Anytime I ever go to take a class, I try not to expect of the host or the instructor to make sure that I'm fed, to make sure that I'm hydrated,
right,
and to make sure that I'm comfortable as far as like having seating space. So I bring a camping chair.
Yep.
I bring water, Gatorade, liquid IVs, whatever it might be, and I bring gummies. If you don't bring gummy bears to a class, like you're kind of
brings his
you're
gummy
kind of
fruit
weird.
snacks
Along with my spare
everywhere.
socks. Sometimes they're in the same location. But anyway, make sure you bring some snacks. It's hard to learn effectively when you're sitting there and your belly's grumbling and everything. Like, God, I just want them to shut up. Right. Man, bring a Snickers bar or something like that, and have something to kind of tie you off until lunch.
That's why I always bring you Reese's.
And bring water. I can't tell you how many times I've seen students show up to a class and they don't bring water.
Yeah, loads of water.
You should be walking around with a water bottle anyway. Bring water. You've got to stay hydrated.
Yeah, water and salt, right? So some sort of electrolyte, some sort of salt, something like that.
Trail mix or something.
Dill pickles.
I'm
They're
big.
my favorite.
I'm big on bringing like beef jerky. That's
That's
kind of my
good
go-to. I really enjoyed beef jerky. It's easy. Throw it in your mouth helps. With a little bit of salivation and everything. I want some beef jerky now.
Yeah, I do too.
But now I'm hungry.
But as far as again, so those are all things. But keep in mind, right? So we're talking about food, right? We've kind of transitioned to food. Keep in mind, you are dealing with firearms here, and presumably you've been shooting quite some time before lunch, or say. So think about lead, right? Think about that lead contamination. Those are, it's very easy for you, especially if you've been training pretty regularly, to be like, it'll be all right.
How are your lead levels, Frank?
Yeah, exactly. Until you pop some high lead levels, and you're like,
I'm on that boat too.
I felt stupider for a reason. But so these are all things again you should consider. You should consider cleaning up, getting some lead wipes, getting some sort of washing with cold soap and water, something to help remove those particulates from you, before you consume, before you touch your face, before you do anything like that. Same thing with after the class is over, right? So after the class is over, after you've gone home from the class, what are you going to do with those clothing? Because your clothes will be contaminated some with lead. It's nothing that soap and water will take it out. It's fine. Throwing it through the washing machine's okay. But you should probably, if you have small children at home, you should refrain from hugging them. You should refrain from touching them. Sure. And that is the hardest thing for me as a parent to do. So when I come home from a class, like the shotgun class, we'll say, several weeks ago, I got home from that class, and Max comes running out, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy." I'm like, no. Hand of God, palm to forehead, stop.
Stiff arm.
I love you, but let me go shower first.
Because kids are so susceptible to the lead and
100%.
metals like that, and it affects them way worse than it affects adults.
Yep, and it's lifelong. So again, you have to be conscious of that. It's something that you have to be aware of.
And taking it back to the range, guys. This day and age, everybody's got Amazon Prime. Check out on Amazon lead off. Just type in lead wipes, scroll down. It's one of the first things that you see. And they have a couple of different types, but I mean, it's so easy to toss one of these into your range bag. It removes lead from your skin. So you could just use that before you decide to bite into your Snickers bar or something. And it's got a whole bunch of wipes in it, and it costs you $12. Toss it into your range kit. The other ones are D-wipe towels. Again, $12, and Hops actually makes a lead be gone cleaning wipes for $10. So, I mean, for less than $15, then you can just stock your range bag up with some wipes, and I think those are really good things to keep with you on the range.
Yeah. So again, we had talked about that list of gear that you bring. It's the minimum. I like having some place where I can put my used gear versus my not used gear yet. So if I bring magazines that are already stuffed with ammunition or something like that, then I have another bag or box I can throw those spent ammunition, or excuse me, not spent ammunition, those spent magazines in, so that I'm not having to constantly dig through. Okay, I need this here, or I have a nice, neat, organized way of being able to access the gear that I need. Especially if you start doing this pretty regularly, you'll pick up some tips and tricks. But like some sort of range bag, like having a dedicated bag that you use just for training, is a great idea. it can be cumbersome trying to move in and out of, we'll say, like a book bag, or cumbersome in and out of a purse or a duffel bag or something like that. If you also use that purse or duffel bag or book bag for other activities, for other things. Not to mention, like I said, we have that lead contamination issue again. How often do you throw a book bag inside of the dishwasher? How often do you decide?
Never, right?
Yeah. How often do you throw it?
I remember the last time I done that one.
A book bag inside of a washing machine or something like that. All things to consider. Yeah. Awesome.
So speaking of like the range bags and stuff, if it's a pistol class or something, one of the things that I like to do is have separate little like pouches for my backup gun. So if I have my primary carry gun or whatever that I'm using, or the primary gun that I'm using in the class goes down for some reason, I have another one as a backup. And generally, when you go to a professional range environment, they will have an area where you can change out gear. You shouldn't be doing that like in a staging area with everybody else around. So there should be a designated area for that. And if that's the case, and you're actually happen to be training at a professional environment, then it would be much easier to grab that little pouch rather than pick up your entire range bag, take it all the way over there. So having those little individual pouches are great, and same way with ammo and magazines. Companies like GPS, Save Your Equipment, they have those already set up.
The other thing that I would bring is like sunscreen,
Yes.
right? Sunscreen, hand chalk, things that creature comforts, lip balm. And here's the thing: with all that stuff, stick them in Ziploc bags.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they don't get everywhere, bust
don't get
open,
everywhere.
even extra oil doesn't go all over your stuff.
100%. I've been in classes before, again, or earlier on, where I didn't do the Ziploc bag thing, and then as I was pulling stuff out of my bag, I'm like, why is everything so gross? Oh no!
I hate when that happens.
And it just explodes in my bag.
Couple other little things, clothing. If it's going to be cold, wear layers. If it's going to be hot, bring an umbrella. Like you said, sunscreen, bring an umbrella. Even one of those little shade tents, something like that. But layers when it's hot really help, or when it's cold really help, because you can put more on or off, things like that. Hand warmers. Just think of like, how can I be more comfortable in a training environment at a class, and bring it. Worst case, you keep it in your car. Right. But the best part about that is a comfortable training environment breeds so much room, or has so much room for learning when you are actually comfortable. So,
yeah. Again, something else. Dress and be safe. You want to make sure your clothing is safe. Safe things on the range, closed-toe shoes,
no
things like that.
flip-flops.
No flip-flops. Yep. Let's continue the conversation.
And we are back. Welcome back to the Rack Show, where we talk about everything regarding the responsibly armed citizen. My name is Tim Kelly, and with me I have Frank Horvath and Zach Cox, and we have been talking about what to expect when attending a class, or what quality classes look like. We've talked about everything from quality training, signing up for it. Is it always about guns, or what other classes should you be taking? What to expect, some class conduct and professionalism. We've talked about all kinds of different stuff. So now we're on our last segment, and we want to talk a little bit about what our last segment was about, which was what do you bring to a class? Like what are some of the things? I just kind of want to wrap that up and talk about anything else that we just haven't mentioned before. We talked about everything from sunscreen, clothing, chairs, hydration,
Extra gear,
food,
all
extra
kinds of
gear,
stuff,
how to pack that extra gear, that type of thing, and about generally the list of stuff to bring that the instructor will put out is a bare minimum. Like this is just bring more than that.
Yep.
But if it accounts for 500, don't just bring 500, right? Bring 750, something along those lines. Bring at least an extra 100 rounds or so, just in case, Yeah. What else?
It's I think I want to circle back to the attitude thing. That it really is the most important part. Have fun. Go into it, not trying to vet your instructor, because you should have already done that.
Yeah.
Go into it having fun. Enjoy the day. Like, what would I rather be doing? Working in a cubicle or doing some job, mowing the grass, which I used to do a lot because I own a landscape company. Would I rather be doing that or taking a class? And I would much rather be taking a class. It's just fun. Enjoy it. So the attitude thing is still so important to me. But I would say the last thing for me is people don't know what they don't know. Ask questions. It's the most important thing about classes is learning and getting to figure out how to learn it better and how you learn and all this stuff. Ask before, ask during, ask after. We would love it.
Ask before. That's definitely that's a really good point, Zach. One of the things that people misunderstand is they think that they're going to bother us when they send us an email saying, "Hey, this is my first class. I don't really know is it okay if I bring this, or should I wear this, or what should I do here? What do you think about this?" Ask the questions.
Yeah.
Ask it's literally
us.
that is our job,
Right.
right?
Yep.
So I love it. I would rather you shoot us an email and say, "Hey, is this acceptable, or should I have this, or should I look at this? What do you think about that?" I'd rather have that then, where I can help you better prepare for the class, so you're not distracted by a mistake or something like that you might make.
If you're able to shoot an email, if you're able to communicate with the instructor, and the instructor okays or whatever, right? They give you some sort of feedback. What is that going to do to you as a student coming to that class? That's going to help you with your confidence.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can come and you have some confidence, you're not having to stress over some of the piddly stuff over what gear to bring and things like that. Then you can focus better on what your goal is, right? My goal is to come to this class and learn about something, right? Whatever it is. So if you don't have to worry about all that other extra stuff, then do that. Then you can focus more on the class.
Well, we got a friend of ours, Cecil Birch.
Yeah.
This is another really good example. Cecil Birch he owns a company called Immediate Action Combatives, and he teaches in extremis, close quarters style type stuff. And so when you see his photos and read his description, you hear a lot of jujitsu minded talk and managing unknown contacts and stuff. It sounds a little intimidating.
Right.
When you talk to Cecil and you hear him talk about the type of people that take his class, it's astounding, man. It really is. He's got 80-year-old students in his class that are leaving uninjured. Cool. But people will look at that and say, grappling? Oh man, I can't afford to get hurt. That Cecil is a professional. And if you reach out to him before, I promise you, he'll put your, heart at ease and help you understand that, you're not going to leave that class beaten up and broken.
Right.
So when you're looking at different classes and you have questions on them, reach out to the instructor and they can answer your questions for you.
Yeah. The only other thing that I'll add, and I'll leave this out, because I can talk about this all day. Leave your cell phone at home. Not quite, but in all seriousness, unless you're tasked with a specific role with your phone, right? Unless you are calling 911 or something like that, just put it on vibrate. Put it on. Leave it in your gear bag. Just don't mess with it.
I will say sometimes though people use their phones for taking notes, which I do a lot. But I normally go up to the instructor beforehand and say, hey, listen, I'm going to be taking notes. I'm not texting my mom or my dog or whatever.
There's nothing more distracting to an instructor than somebody messing with their phone, fidgeting.
True.
Now, if you're taking pictures or something like that, cool, right?
Yeah.
But if you're sitting there and you're just checked out and you're texting or you're not there, man, just go handle your business and then come back when you're ready.
Yeah, why would you pay an instructor money just so you can sit there and scroll on Facebook?
Right.
That just baffles me, man. That blows my mind.
I've seen it countless time and time again. But anywho, I digress. All right, Compsy of the month, Tim.
All right.
What is our Compsy of the month?
Cool. So Compsy of the month. Let's talk about what that is actually. So Compsy of the month originally started out as a way to build competence within our own cadre. So we would task out a different subject every month to challenge the individual's level of education on the subject. And if they didn't know about the subject, then they would go out, research it, get to know it better, and then present on it. And so that's essentially what we refer to as a Competency of the Month. Now, since we've started this RAC show, we wanted to have this conversation with our listeners and include it here. So our Competency of the Month for the month of September is functions of a cartridge, shell, and the phases of ballistics. And we can go into whatever kind of detail we want. Frank, I'm interested in the reloading aspects, and I think you're the man to talk to on this.
Giddy up. I love me some reloading.
All right, man, go for it.
All right. So, fortunately, we have Zach in the house with us, who is a novice reloader. Just now, he quite literally bought the stuff, but hasn't set anything up yet. So, I'm passionate about reloading, really enjoy it. Have several different types of reloading machines. I've reloaded several different types of cartridges and things like that. Really got into it. So, long story short, there's a few must-haves, and then everything else is extra, right? So as far as reloading, you must have to start, you must have a good reference. You need to have some sort of reloading book. You need to have some sort of article saying that this is how much of a particular powder that you need. This is how much of a particular bullet weight that you need for your specific cartridge. You need to have some sort of reference that helps guide you in the direction of making a successful cartridge.
It's like a book of recipes.
It's 100% like a book of recipes.
Or a Bible?
Nah, I wouldn't go that far.
Reloading Bible?
I wouldn't go that far.
I've seen a reloading Bible. It did say that.
So, but some way that's going to help you starting off so that you're safe. Reloading, your own cartridges can go, or shot shells can go one of two ways. You can do it awesomely, or you can do it very badly. And either or, if you do it very badly, it can damage you, or it can damage your gun. So, more importantly, we hear stories about people saying, oh, my uncle such and such is a reloader. Nah, he had a fifth a night that, he reloaded these for me. You might want to back off. You might want to be hesitant, using those cartridges because it potentially can be catastrophic, right? You want to be safe. So going back to Zach. Zach, as a novice reloader, right, as somebody who's just now starting into it, what are the questions that you have as far as reloading?
Yes.
Yes.
All of them.
All of them.
Okay. Here's my first one. So I bought a rock chucker. Is that what it's called?
RCBS rock chucker.
Now what? What else do I need? Which we had talked before. He said, okay, I needed to buy the dies.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I guess the first thing, I've already answered one of my questions. I need to learn some terminology.
All right,
so I'm going to do some research online. But since I've been doing some research, okay, now what?
All right. So It would be best practice to find a class, right? Find somewhere, find a mentor, somebody that you can get together with and can go step by step with you and say, all right, you have your press, awesome. Let's mount your press. All right, you have a sturdy table that your press is mounted, awesome. What cartridge are you planning on reloading? Fantastic. We have the cartridge that you plan on reloading. Now let's pick up the dies. Let's pick up the components for that cartridge, and then really start baby stepping through it. So the best way that a novice reloader can really start get going without being like disheartened that or question whether they're doing something right or not is to literally go step by step with somebody who's done it before. So, okay, cool. I'm going to purchase a set of dies. They don't have to be the most expensive dies out there. This is your very first press, right? So just some hardened steel dies are perfectly fine.
Would you recommend like 3, 4, 5 dies if I wanted to do all of them, or just start with one for now?
No. So you're going to need you're going to need a set of dies. So somewhere around 2 to 3 die, 2 to 4 dies, we'll say.
Okay.
It depends on the cartridge. Depends on what you're doing. But every die has a particular job for reshaping this case or for seating the projectile, or there's certain things that each die does when you're going through it and working on reloading these cartridges. Now, once you've gone through the process of learning, like I said, the nomenclature, going through your book as far as learning how much powder and what the case height needs to be and what how deep the projectile needs to be seated and like the whole 9 yards, right? There's a lot of math and a lot of little things into it. Eventually, you'll have to get to the point where going, all right, I am ready. I am confident in this cartridge. I'm going to shoot this cartridge out of an actual firearm. And that's the biggest part where you're like, I don't know if this is right. We're gonna find out right now.
But it's also rewarding, I bet.
It is so rewarding.
Yeah.
It is being able to tailor a cartridge to your particular firearm and have it perform the way that you want it to perform. There's very few things that are as rewarding as having something actually function the way that you expect it to function, the way that you've designed it to function.
So I have one last question, Master Frank. May I be your Padawan and you teach me the art of reloading?
You should have a class on it. What do you think, viewers?
I'm thinking so.
Listeners.
Yeah,
We should do a class.
We'll do a class. I'll tell you what, we'll talk about that more on the next show. Let's do that. Let's talk a little bit more about reloading next show. Thank you, guys.